Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Khaled. I currently live in San Diego, California, and I am a tech entrepreneur and currently M&A advisor for digital businesses. So I help digital business owners sell their company.
So in terms of your tech entrepreneurship, can you just talk more about that? Like what, kind of tech products have you created or how did you kind of get into that in the first place?
Yeah, so I started as a kid in high school. I graduated class of '02, so quite a while ago, and coded my first website using CGI and Perl. That was the language of choice then. And I used to pay other kids to go to the wrestling show, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, and they would go the night it was recorded live. They would write down who won, and then I would take that winning card and post it as a spoiler on my website. And I sort of growth hacked it, right? I would only post piece of it on other people's websites, and they would have to read the full spoiler on my website, and that generated millions of hits. And I sold ad space. The parent company that owed me money went bankrupt, part of the bubble crash, so I got to be a part of that as a kid, which was interesting. And then from there, even through that, I just fell in love with digital entrepreneurship. And yeah, I started a ton of businesses. So I had a digital agency. At one point, I reverse engineered the Yahoo algorithm and got websites to rank overnight. So I was running ads through that. Let's see, I touched some non-digital as well, like a security company, an office furniture company. But what really propelled me to the next level was a media company. So I had 17 blogs, thousands of articles, and we were able to run ads towards that. And we got 30 million unique US visitors a month with about 10 page views per session. So we got 300 million page views per month. We had 5 ads on each page. So we generated about 1.5 billion impressions per month. So made quite a bit of money from that. I launched a venture studio where I was like, okay, being a serial entrepreneur, let's launch more businesses systematically. So that was solutionsy.com, did that for a while. That spread me pretty thin. We were buying so much media. One of the things that we built was a marketing SaaS called Brax, Brax.io. So I ended up just focusing on that out of the venture studio, got that to about 1 million in ARR, sold that. And then from there, just did some executive roles, some VP of marketing roles, and decided, you know what? And I invested and bought a business too, and was like, the buying and selling of digital businesses was very foreign to me as a tech entrepreneur. So I wanted to start a firm that educated as well as represented digital owners on how to sell, their business.
Awesome. So in terms of that, right, like what are some of the biggest things that you see or I guess common mistakes that people make when they're getting into tech entrepreneurship and like that they eventually do want to exit?
Yeah. So when entering, I would say over engineering is generally a problem. People are taking too long to launch the first version of the product, right? You can even technically try to sell it before you have it, right? Set up a landing page, screenshots, and see if you can collect some credit card through paid ads. I mean, assuming again, you're not doing something enterprise or extremely technical. The other thing that then happens is then they try to do too much, right? So not only are you taking too long, but now you're sort of solving this problem, then that problem. And it's the common sort of thing that they say now, like solve one really deep problem very well for maybe just one ideal customer. And be okay with being wrong. I mean, I was launching a product recently while I was running the M&A firm, and I thought I was going to build like a AI task creator. And I started to do, I'm not sure if you ever heard of it, it's called the mom test, right? Where you go around, you ask people, you don't really ask them about your product, you ask them about their workflow, and you basically try to get feedback before you build it. And I found that actually it's not as big as a problem as I thought. It's more of an operational issue than it is a technical issue. And it sucked. I already had put up the website and I had the first version of it. And I was like, I don't think this is going to scale well. So I had to back out of it. So sunk costs too, like just exit out of that, right? Like just be like, okay, this doesn't work. Let's move on. And then when selling, I think the other thing is, taper your expectations, right? If you're under a million or two in revenue, you're not going to get the VC multiples that people expect. You're not going to get these large, exits. It just doesn't happen. People go, oh, how come did it have sold for 20x revenue? Well, they have much more intense growth, much more intense margin, et cetera. So just be realistic, do your research.
For sure. So in terms of like, yeah, like you mentioned, obviously kind of going around asking people, how long should that process take? I think that you mentioned that one challenge that people make is that they spend way too much time, even potentially way too much money building something or even just, with the ideation stage. Like how quickly should somebody kind of, if they have this idea, to actually go and validate this?
Yeah, that could be done in probably about 2 or 3 months. And that's if you're going really slow. You could probably do it in a month if you were doing it full time, right? So the rationale is who has this problem? So in my case, I thought it was okay. People who have virtual assistants who need to delegate tasks quickly without what's called context switching. So I was like, okay, where do those people live? Well, they probably live on some Reddit forums or, groups. So I went there, started asking questions. Can I jump on a video call with you? And you just got to sort of hunt for those people that you think might be your clients and then ask them questions. So it depends. I mean, if you're solving something like, biomedical technology, those people might be harder to get a hold of than, let's say, business development reps, right? I mean, those people are everywhere. So it just depends.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. I think it really just depends exactly kind of who is your target audience, and also like, yeah, I mean, if it's somebody who, if it's a much more complex kind of high touch industry like the medical field or government, things like that, it might take some time to even get one person on a kind of call. So,
Right.
in terms of that, right, like, somebody has launched a product and they have some level of MRR and they're really like looking to scale up like what like you yeah because like you mentioned right like if you're under a million under 2 million you're probably not going to get that kind of valuation but if you really want to exit for something good I mean what's kind of like what does that mark look like to okay I should be at this number to really get that kind of multiple to even get like
Yeah.
a $10 million exit things like that.
Yeah. So the thing that matters the most is your growth rate, actually, because the growth rate, regardless of your revenue and profit, it shows that that revenue and profit is eventually going to be achieved, right? So pretty simple math. If you're growing consistently 30, 40% a year, year over year, even if you're starting at, 50,000 and then you go 40% and then you go 40%, and I mean, that's great. That looks really, really good. Once you break about, so always focus on consistent growth. If you have a down year, you're going to start to get questioned. All right. And I think the most important thing to understand is VCs value businesses much differently than people who are buying those businesses. Private equity investors, owners, operators, strategics, whoever's going to try to buy you. So the first thing is focus on just growing at a healthy amount. And if you're not able to do that, then you're probably not solving a valuable enough problem. And go back to asking the right questions. Once you have that growth, you want to be breaking about 2 million in ARR. Once you break 2 million, the buyer pool opens up, quite significantly. Under 2 million, you're dealing with a lot of individual buyers and first-time entrepreneurs or serial entrepreneurs. The valuations are much lower. You're going to, list yourself maybe on Acquire or Flippa. You could engage with a broker or advisor like myself, but when you break 2 million in ARR, the buyer pool expands. And then at that point, depending on if you have profit or not, the buyer pool expands more. So again, example, if you're 2 million but don't have profit, the buyer pool is still bigger, but not as big as 2 million with profit. Oh man. Then you break 5 million with profit, and let's just say 20%. So now you have a million in EBITDA or profit. You have all the leverage. Everybody's going to want to buy you. So if you've broken 5 million, have 20% margin and have grown using the 40% rule, then your you're going to be very good. So the 40% rule says I'm going to add my growth rate and my profit margin, and those should equal more than 40. So let's say I'm growing at 30% a year and my profit margin's 10%, or I'm growing at 20% a year, but my profit margin's 20%. That's fantastic. You're going at 70%, but your profit margin's negative 30. That's okay. You're growing so fast, it's okay to be in the red. So the rule of 40 does even apply when you're negative, but ideally you want to reach profitability at some point.
For sure. And I guess like on that point, right, like how important is profitability? Because I think that it's definitely changed. I mean, even 4 or 5 years ago, it really was more about, aggressive growth. I think more and more VCs and like investors are looking for profitability. So how important is that to really get that kind of an exit or, that kind of a valuation?
Yeah, so it's much more important now. It's an indicator of a healthier company. What happened is VCs, from 2014, 2015 are now maturing and or coming to close, and a lot of their bets aren't backing out. So buyers in general right now are weighing profitability more than just revenue or growth. Now, again, it's such a nuanced thing, right? So if you're growing consistently, profit's not going to be as important in the variable. But again, nowadays they want to see a line to profitability. That's the main thing. So I
For
would say it's
sure.
much more important in simple terms. It's much more important now. My opinion is try to be profitable by like end of year one.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's good advice. And then I guess just for somebody who really wants to, exit and get that kind of high multiple, right? I mean,
Mhm.
there's, like as you said, right? I mean, profitability is important, but I think also one thing I'm seeing, I guess, like in the market today is you have so much competition. You have so many SaaS products that are so similar. So how much does that come into play? I mean, if it's like a certain SaaS product where it's like, hey, like you're competing with a big player in the space, let's just say like, Calendly or some, big player, how much does that really come into play when you're looking for that exit?
Yeah, if you're in a saturated market, differentiation's going to matter. And they're going to, after looking at revenue and profit and growth rate, they're going to look at your churn, right? So if you're losing market share to some of the big players, I mean, Google just released the ability for you to book right from their calendar now. They have like you can create a little booking link. That messed up a lot of calendar. I mean, I've actually talked to three calendar companies recently that are like, we're losing market share. Another one's like, I'm having a hard time acquiring, I'm churning. So, yeah, you want to be different. And the way you know you're different is by having low churn, right? If you're solving a sticky problem for someone, they're not going to leave you. So, you're better off having, acquiring 1 to 2 customers a month that aren't ever going to leave you because you're consistently building a sticky product for them than you are. I mean, I've seen companies right now. I'm talking to another company where they churn like 8% a month.
Right.
I mean, that means, 12 times 8 by the end of the year, 96% of their customers left. So that you're not even holding them for a year. You're basically you're like a boat that's sailing with like a leak on the side that's just taking water. At some point, if that hole gets any bigger, you're gonna go under. So I would say differentiation is very, very important.
So you're saying it's kind of like looking for some sort of like vertical SaaS, like within like a certain niche and charging, a good amount. Because yeah, if you're just going to onboard 2 customers per month, right? I mean, you have to charge more than $30. I mean, it has to be something to where, it can actually make sense for you to scale up as opposed to like something just, that's super cheap.
Yeah, I mean, let's say you go super cheap. Let's say you go $30. Doing two a month isn't going to do a lot, right? You're adding $60 in MRR. So yeah, I definitely was talking about something closer to like, 800 to, 500 to 1,000 a month. If you're that small, the $30, I love Fathom. I'm not, I use the recorder personally. So they did a great job. I mean, they they bootstrapped it. They did raise some money, a little bit. I'm sure they might have gotten a seed or angel round. I don't remember, but they had a free version the whole time, and they're just really sticky. Like I don't want to leave them. All my videos are there. It's so cheap, and they have a really good upward path. There's so many other ones, by the way. There's Fireflies, and I forget all the other recorders, but they
Otter,
all
yeah,
do the
I got some.
Otter. Yeah, but Fathom does just like one thing really, really well. It just goes to Zoom. They have Microsoft Teams and they have Google, but it just does, and it does summaries with AI, and that's it. Like You don't need more than, and it's cheap. Fantastic. Like it did a great job of doing a nice matrix against their competitors and a SWOT analysis. So and it's hard, man. I should be clear. Like it's really, really hard to
For
build
sure.
a successful business.
100%. So obviously now we're in 2025. It's a new year. We're about wrapping up the first month of the year. So in terms of your goals for this year, what are some of the biggest goals and objectives for your business in 2025?
For my business personally, I am looking to double it year over year. So last year's revenue to this year's revenue and the number of businesses sold. We're the new kid on the block as a digital M&A firm. In this industry, there's no growth hacking per se, right? Like you can't all of a sudden be the M&A firm that's been around 10, 15 years because it's going to take 10, 15 years to build that up. So really just establishing ourselves as the, market maker, right? When a SaaS company comes to us, I want them to know that they're going with the best company that's going to be able to represent them and get them the highest value exit, but also the most realistic one, right? Because I think a lot of people get sold on blue skies. So increasing our revenue, increasing the team, and increasing our presence will be the overarching strategy here.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's a good goal. So if you could go back in time to before you got started within your tech journey, entrepreneurship journey, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, and I'm probably a little biased here, but I probably would never start a business from scratch again. Some people are creators and they have to start from scratch, right? And that's just how they feed their itch. But I would understand how to do leveraged buyouts, how to take out debt and buy existing businesses because that's where the money's made, man. You buy something that's already doing 300K in profit. You can pay yourself out a good amount of that and grow it over the next 2 to 3 years and then flip it again and just keep doing and keep moving up market as you do that. The first business you buy is maybe worth 1 million. You can get an SBA loan for that or just a traditional bank if it's healthy enough. Sell that one for 2 to 3, buy the next one at 2 to 3. And even let's say you make 2 to 3 from that one in million. You don't have to put all your money down. You only need to put 10, 20% of your money down, right? And so then you're consistently building your bank account and growing it. And so I would say leverage buyouts is my new thing. Like as I build the firm, my goal is to also buy and build businesses.
That's a great goal. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out or wanted to work with you, do you mind sharing your website or social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, Livmo, livmo.com is the best way. Khaled Azar, KHALED AZAR. You can probably just Google it or put it in LinkedIn. I'll come up. The other Khaled Azars are my cousins, so if you reach out to them, they'll probably just tell me you're reaching out to them. It's not a problem. But yeah, Khaled at Livmo also works. And again, I want to stress that I'm here to educate too, because whether they go with us or someone else, or whether they're planning on selling in a year or in 3 to 5 years, it's just good to know ahead of time because, like anything else, if you know it early on, you'll make the proper strategic decisions as you reach those forks in the road.
Awesome. Well, Khaled, thanks so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.